And we will hear testimony today concerning recent revelations about a purportedly secret UAP program whose existence and findings may have been improperly withheld from Congress. This is going to be the original document about Immaculate Constellation.
Those of us who've been following this very closely have been hearing whispers of the words Immaculate Constellation for a few months now.
The Immaculate Constellation, it's a UAP reconnaissance program. I can affirm this 100%.
What is in here is wild. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but reports of F-22s getting boxed in by flying orbs that they couldn't shake. There were satellite images or satellite image of a football field-sized flying saucer hiding in clouds.
I have personally walked people into members' offices for private meetings so they could see eye to eye and they could meet.
You are the author of what the world knows as the Immaculate Constellation Report.
It has been allowed to corrupt and infest every aspect of our society to serve the interests and whims of a very elite, select few.
You've worked in secret programs. You've got clearances. You've made oaths that you would keep secrets. Let's talk about secrecy and the UAP topic. Shouldn't it be secret to some degree? I mean, we have, there's a race for the technology to try to understand it. We have adversary nations who'd love to get it ahead of us. Why not keep this stuff secret?
Well, if it was just technology that we are worried about protecting and maintaining a military advantage, there's strong arguments to be made and have successfully been made for decades in this country that the American leadership and American people seem to be finding acceptable to be left in the dark about where science, technology, and their military is taking them. This isn't just technology. This isn't something somebody came up with in a lab and it's sensitive because once the cat's out of the bag, anybody can do it. Fundamentally, this comes from and is secondary to what we've been told is the biggest question, which is humanity alone? The answer is no. And the secrecy that has been defended is at the cost of, in my mind, human dignity, freedom, and progress. And it is no longer permissible or acceptable in my mind to continue this course, to deprive another generation of not just Americans, but humanity of their birthright to know who they are, where they came from, and what's with us.
Can you give us a general description of the size of the secrecy apparatus? We're going to drill down into this, of course, about IMCON, in one particular facet of the secrecy that you came across and other parts of it. But how big of a secrecy apparatus is it? How many stovepipes are there? How many people are involved in different ways of keeping this secret, confusing the public, lying to Congress, lying to the world?
Simply put, it's a parallel reality. The secrecy apparatus is all pervasive. It is not just in the intelligence community governing their world. It's not just in the military protecting their operations. It's not protecting our diplomats and leaders as they conduct their work, sometimes in very dangerous places. It has been allowed to corrupt and infest every aspect of our society to serve the interests and whims of a very elite, select few.
And it's been used to intimidate, threaten, destroy the lives of people like yourselves who have been doing their job, keeping their oaths, trying to protect their country, being true to humanity, and have paid praises for it.
Absolutely.
Which is also how you found out information about the topic we're going to discuss.
I delved too deeply.
And you came across this sort of accident?
100% accidentally. Sorry. The Immaculate Constellation piece of this, 100% accidentally. Before I was exposed to that, I had seen UAP on military videos in the Pentagon, but nothing that suggested, origin, intent, or in a level of detail that, I came to find later.
So explain that to the average, how do you just come across UFO videos in the Pentagon? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Tell somebody who has no idea how that happens.
So you have a clearance and there's a secret internet. And on that secret internet, there's just a generic access like you and I. It's all very secret, sensitive stuff, but more or less everyone can look at what's on there. Then, you have on this secret internet, some compartmentation, light compartmentation, as it were. And then there's entirely different systems for truly sensitive stuff. But the point is that there is essentially, a shared community of knowledge, and it goes back, just like our own internet, it goes back over decades.
If you have a top secret clearance, you go on JWICS, you can pretty much go and see whatever is on there, except for special compartmentalized stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. Or things that, are just people protect their business processes.
So who would be putting UFO type or UAP videos on there? How does that happen? How do they end up there?
Service members and intelligence officers who, for one reason or another, decided to put that footage there.
What's the first UFO video you see? What'd you think of it? Or military film footage of a UFO. What did you, what was that like?
Well, technically, the first true military footage that I saw was that Tic Tac video and the Go Fast video, and I think there was one other else, the Gimbal video that all came out in 2017. Granted, I didn't see those on military systems, but just being precise here.
Yeah.
And so things that I saw after that kind of looked like all that, but just much more duration. The videos, it's the internet, whether it's secret or not. There's compression, there's upload and file sizes. So some things are crystal clear, but it's only 15 seconds. Some things you can see 45 minutes of something moving around, but it's kind of blurry because that's a lot of data.
So you've seen crystal clear at times videos of what appear to be, would you say, non-human intelligence made craft? I mean, what you see evidence that the rest of the world doesn't get to see. Mm-hmm. That starts happening.
Yeah. Nothing in those videos necessarily proves it's extraterrestrial or non-human. It certainly is anomalous, exotic, and unexplainable.
And advanced.
Yes.
Beyond our capabilities that you know of?
I don't know. Mm-hmm. Some of it might have been within our capabilities to replicate, even in an inferior manner. Mm-hmm. But quite a lot of it is, it's either something else or we live in a world where we have been left behind.
2017, these stories come out, New York Times and other media. The videos become known. That sparks your curiosity and you start looking around for that kind of stuff, or it would just come across your desk and in front of your eyes naturally?
Yeah, so not looking for that stuff.
Did you have access to live feeds?
Yes.
So live feeds, real time, you could go into like a Reaper drone and see if there's something going on. Not that you're specifically looking for UFOs, but you had access even to live feeds.
Yeah. Not anything special, no special access, but you know where those resources are. You can go look at them. And I did.
I want to go back to this. You said with these nuclear facilities, nuclear weapons, nuclear labs, nuclear power plants, mm-hmm. that within a year or two, are you saying all of them get visited, or there's some strange phenomenon?
I can't say that they all do, but I would suspect that, anything that is sufficiently nuclear will draw attention at some point and they will be encountering this.
And what are they? What do you see it? What kinds of things are you seeing?
So, nothing too dramatic when it comes to these facilities. A lot of times it's orbs of, it's hard to always judge the size, but I'd be surprised if it's bigger than a Cessna, probably something somewhere in between. Whether it's white or silverish, or if you're looking through different sensor apparatus, it'll, look like whatever hot or cold is. But usually orbs around these facilities, sometimes things that look a bit more irregular, mm-hmm. But the vast majority being orbs.
I mean, the world's been exposed to some of this. There's been a clarification to the general public about what are you seeing when you're seeing infrared or FLIR. It takes some translation. There are people that focus on that, like they can read that. But basically, you're looking at things that don't have flight control surfaces, that don't have traditional propulsion. They seem to tag along, which we've heard forever, with nuclear events, that kind of thing, nuclear structure. But you see a lot of these, you start getting exposed to them. I mean, just to begin, doesn't that start to kind of feed that curiosity in you? You just all of a sudden, the average person, but you're now seeing stuff that you can't.
Yeah, you have to be a special kind of boring to not be interested after seeing those states. It's shocking, especially knowing the context of what you're looking at.
Right, which you get when you have those systems that can look at that.
100%.
What's the context? What like big picture? Like what's the context?
Yeah, and in this way, you're seeing images. Is there discussion? Is there text that comes along with this? Hey, we saw this thing. What the hell is it? It's not us.
Surprisingly little of that. I think the community kind of knows or knew we don't talk about this. It's there. That changed some years ago, but it's since been, I think, shut down again in terms of community participation in solving the problem.
So people within the intelligence community know you don't talk about this out loud. You don't say the quiet part out loud. You post stuff, you kind of you get an era of discussion when this starts coming forward. 2017 New York Times story, but then you're explaining that there's been a kind of clampdown on that dialogue and discussion. I've heard that from a lot of people on the inside. You witnessed that too?
Yes, absolutely, both firsthand and from hearing from friends and connections.
Yes,
the screws were tightened, and certain agencies, you're not allowed to mention certain whistleblowers' names, or you'll be fired immediately.
So there's no announcement on the PA system. There's no leaflets left in the cafeteria. No memo put out that says, don't talk about this stuff, but
Yeah. You pick up on that vibe real quick.
When you say there's certain whistleblowers' names you can't mention, this brings me back to a friend of ours when George was doing his news report on Bob Lazar, first time it was going to air, he just said, when he was up at Area 52, he just said, hey, you should pay attention to the news. His career was over. He got pulled into a room the next day. I would call him a friend of ours. I interviewed him about it. I mean, that was done. He just mentioned to watch George's news report. Again, we're not equating Bob Lazar to anything, but we were just saying that happened. So what do you mean if you mention certain whistleblowers? Who?
David Grush.
You can't mention David Grush in certain professional settings or you are fucked.
Yeah, if you're not fired, you are in for a very rough time, is my understanding.
Elizondo?
I didn't hear Elizondo as a no-go word. Saying David Grush testified in open Congress, so that makes sense. So what have you seen it happen? Have you seen people mention his name? How do you become aware you can't even talk about him? So that specific example, heard from a friend at that agency, that was essentially the word of mouth from management. Nothing written in paper, nothing in emails, but from what it sounds like, people got a conversation with their leadership and were told as much as we've just gone over. And his name was absolutely, in the first-hand experience, sort of radioactive in the chat rooms. It would either, all of a sudden, these people that never participate are there really slamming him and slamming the people talking about him. On the classified internet. Indeed. Our space is one we've talked about but these where people had open dialogue, it just got a clamp down. And his name was part of that. That's what you meant when you said certain people are radioactive. You can't mention their names. Right. Okay. Clueless. And good, yeah. We're nuclear. Yeah. He's radioactive. Okay. Different designation. Yeah.
So you're seeing these videos and some limited discussion. You can't really openly talk about it, but you're curious. You're kind of hooked on the topic.
Yeah, and to be clear, 2018, when this first exposure happened, and for about a few years after, it did at least feel more open. Looking back on it, this was probably a counterintelligence prerogative at the time. But it was allowed to exist. The discussion was allowed to exist, and it felt more like, people were excited to finally actually be able to talk about this and finally be able to try to compare notes, figure it out.
Well, it's when the UAP task force was created. They didn't call it that, but it was up and running, and they were trying to make entreaties out to intelligence community and DoD, hey, they wanted input from and partners.
Yeah, so I saw that emerge and I saw it die.
Saw it die.